Hello, this is Caitlin McCann. I'm in Period 7 Honors Pre-Calculus, and I'm going to be teaching you how to derive the law of cosines and how to use the law of cosines to solve triangles. Alright, so I'm going to start my show. First of all, we're going to derive the law of cosines because it's always good to know where your formulas come from so that you have a better understanding of how they work and why they work. So we start with this basic triangle right here. So all the vertices are labeled with uppercase letters and all the sides are with lowercase letters. Also we have the height put in, and also we divided up side A into A minus X section and X section. So the first step is we're going to use the Pythagorean theorem to work on this side of the triangle. So h squared, the height, plus A minus X squared, that's this piece, equals C squared. Simple Pythagorean theorem. For the second part of the triangle, we use the same thing, h squared plus x squared equals b squared. The next step is we take this first equation and just move everything around so that we're solving for h squared. And now that we know what h squared equals, that would be c squared minus a minus x squared, we can take that and plug it in for h squared in the second equation. So now we're working with the second equation, and that gives us c squared minus a minus x squared plus x squared equals b squared. The next step is we distribute this right here, we multiply it out. So you're going to have c squared minus a squared plus 2ax minus x squared plus x squared equals b squared. For the next step, we just take the negative x squared and the positive x squared, and they just cancel out. So now I just flipped it around here. So now b squared equals c squared plus a squared plus 2ax. So now we're going to go on a little bit of a side note because we kind of want to get rid of the x because we have too many variables. So if you took the cosine of this angle right here, angle C, that would be adjacent over hypotenuse right here, x over b. Now we move that around to solve so that it solves for x. X equals b cosine c. So now we take b cosine c and we put it in for x. So the final law of cosines, all derived out, is c squared equals b squared plus a squared minus 2ab cosine c. And that is our final formula. For the next step, the law of cosines can be used when we have all three sides of a triangle, that's an SSS, or two sides and the angle in between them, SAS. So in this first example, this would be an SAS, so we have the one side, we have the angle in between, and then we have the next side. So if we were to not simplify anything, this is basically just plugging everything into the law of cosines, we would have c squared equals 3 squared plus 1 squared minus 2 times 3 times 1 times cosine 30. So in this case, we would be solving for side C. In the second case, the SSS, we have all three sides, and we would be solving for angle C. So if we put all that in, again, unsimplified, you would have 3.5 squared equals 3 squared plus 1 squared minus 2 times 3 times 1 times cosine C. So now we're going to do a couple of examples. So this is one triangle I have done out. So this is an SAS because we have one side, the angle in between, and the next side. So for this triangle, we're going to be solving for side C, angle A, and angle B. So we start off by just plugging in what we have. C squared equals 4 squared plus 5 squared minus 2 times 4 times 5 times cosine 30. Then if we simplify that out, 4 squared plus 5 squared equals 41, and 2 times 4 times 5 equals 40. So that's just to get you here. So c squared equals 41 minus 40 cosine 30. Next, we take the cosine 30 and you put that in your calculator and multiply it by 40. So c squared equals 41 minus 34.641. And if you subtract that, then you have c squared equals 6.359. Then you just take the square root of that, and now you know that side C equals 2.52 units. Once you have that, now we're going to try and solve for one of these angles because right now we only have one. So at this point, you could use the law of sines because you have enough information to do the law of sines. But since we're learning the law of cosines, I want you guys to just work with it, take it another step. So instead of using the law of sines to find angle A, we're just going to do law of cosines again. So now if you fill in what you know that you have side A, and you have side C, and you have side B. So this is going to be a side example in order to find angle A. So first you go with 4 squared equals 2.52 squared, that's C squared, just so we remember what we just found, plus 5 squared minus 2 times 2.52 times 5 times cosine A. So if we kind of simplify that, you'll get 16 equals 31 plus 31.35 minus 25.2 cosine A. The next step is to subtract the 31.5 from the right side and bring it over to the left. So now you have negative 15.35 equals negative 25.2 cosine A. Then you divide both sides by negative 25.2, and you end up with, I simplified it a little bit. When you put this into your calculator, you try not to simplify it because it really does make a difference. Try to just round it out at the very end. So I wrote out most of the numbers, but in your calculator it would probably have like 2 or 3 more numbers after this. But right now, as it stands, cosine A equals 0.60912. Then you just do the inverse cosine of both sides, and when you do the inverse cosine of 0.60912, you'll find that angle A equals 52.47 degrees. At this point, it's kind of, I don't want to say a waste of time, but it's a little bit of a waste of time to go and do the law of cosines again for the third angle. So now you can just take, there it is, you can just take the sum of angle A and angle C and just subtract one and do 180 minus that sum. So 52.47 plus 30 equals 82.47. And 180 minus 82.47 is 97.53. So now you know that side C equals 2.52 units, angle A equals 52.47 degrees, and angle B equals 97.53 degrees. So that's basically what you do. This first step is the biggest part because once you get this, as long as there's no ambiguous case, you can pretty much use your prior knowledge like the law of cosines and then just subtracting from 180. So as long as you get this main point down, this is the main part where law of cosines is really important. And I just took it a step further just so we could kind of practice it again. All right, so now I have a second example, one more for you guys to do. And in this one, we have side, and we're going to have to solve it for all 3 angles. So first we're going to take 6.5 and you put that in, so 6.5 squared equals, plug in the next one, 8.2 squared, plug in the next one, plus 5.3 squared, minus 2 times 8.2 times 5.3 times cosine C. So in this case, we're automatically looking for angle C. We don't have to find any sides. So simplify that out a little bit. 42.25 equals 95.33 minus 86.92 cosine C. Once you do that, you can subtract the 95.33, and so you'll have negative 50.08 equals negative 86.2 cosine C. Then you divide by negative 86.92, just divide by that, the negative 86.92. And then again, I simplified it, I rounded it out a little bit, but try not to round out. So it's going to be about 0.57616 equals cosine C. And then from there, you just do the inverse cosine of both sides, and you'll find that angle C equals 54.81 degrees. Then, again, once you're here, I know you can use the law of sines. I'm just going to do law of cosines again just so we kind of get used to the formula because it is a really good formula and it's going to start helping us in further units. So this is, if you're going to know a formula, law of cosines is a really important one to have memorized and be able to use whenever you need it. So I'm going to do it again, and this time I'm going to be solving for angle B. So if you plug everything back in, 5.3 squared equals 8.2 squared, plus 6.5 squared, minus 2 times 8.2 times 0.65 cosine B. I'm going to see if I can fill that in because that is not good. Right here, there. 8.2 squared. Okay, so then the next step, which I already have put out, is you just simplify it down. So 28.09 equals 109.49 minus 106.6 cosine B. Now, you're probably getting used to this. You subtract the 109.49. So now you have negative 81.4 equals negative 106.6 cosine B. Then you divide by negative 106.6, and you get 0.7636 equals cosine B. Once you do that, just inverse cosine of both sides, and you'll find that B equals 40.21 degrees. Once you're here, now you have two of the angles, so you can just do 180 minus the sum of those angles. So 54.81 plus 40.21 equals 95.02. 180 minus 95.02 equals 84.98. So altogether, you have angle C, 54.81 degrees. You have angle B, 40.21 degrees. You have angle A, 84.98 degrees. And you already have all three sides given. And that's the law of cosines. Thank you.